Today, I'll be opening all 8 of these MrBeast Lab Swarms test tubes trying to find the incredibly rare Hyperchrome Panther, and I have a good feeling that today we'll finally find some new swarms. Here I have a first generation box of test tubes next to a second one. If you notice, this new box has a QR code that wasn't present on the first box. In addition, on the test tubes on the first box, they all start with a 1 on this FV code, whereas on the second one, they all start with a 2. So let's add water to our first test tube and see if I'm right. Also new in these test tubes is when you open up the test tube for a first time, you get a little manual that shows you how to start your experiment. It also looks like there's some new mysterious powder in the test tube. So let's add water and see who we get. Now let's release the blue slime. Unfortunately, my theory's not off to a great start since we got a duplicate Fang Vision, who's a common, and a duplicate Button Brawler, who's a MrBeast Squad rare. Let's move on to our second test tube. Now let's release the slime. Whoa, I don't know if you saw that, there's a giant explosion. The slime's all thick and sludgy. Well, I'll go try and clean them off and see who we got. In this second test tube, we got a duplicate Tethermite, who's a common, and a duplicate Stone Bones, who's a rare translucent. So it looks like I was wrong again. Now let's release the slime. Oops. Now I'll clean them off and see who we got. In the third test tube, we got a duplicate Recliner, who's a common, and a duplicate Midnight Panther, who's a MrBeast Squad Ultra Rare Translucent. Now let's move on to the fourth test tube. Slime's going everywhere on this one. It's fizzing up too. Well, let's try and release the slime and see who we got. Whoa. Well, another thick batch of slime, but let's clean them off. In this test tube, we found a duplicate Grizzly Grouch, who's a common, and a duplicate Boom Boom, who's a MrBeast Squad rare. So hopefully we'll find something new in the second half of this box. Here we have our fifth test tube, so let's add some water and give it a mix. Slime's going everywhere again. Well, let's try and release the slime and see who we got. Not sure if they changed something about the slime, but it sure feels like they did. Or maybe I'm just not adding enough water or stirring it up enough. Here we got a duplicate Freak Historic, who's a common, and a duplicate Fleshinator, who's a MrBeast Squad rare. Down to our last 3 test tubes, so hopefully we'll find something new, so let's pick one up and add some water. Went ahead and wrapped this one up with a paper towel because it's already leaking everywhere, but let's go ahead and give it a mix. Now let's release the slime. Now let's see who we got. In this test tube, we got a duplicate Rage Rattler, who's a MrBeast Squad common, and a duplicate Toxic Panther, who's a MrBeast Squad Ultra Rare Glow in the Dark. Here we are down to our last 2 test tubes, so let's pick one up and add water. Now let's mix it up. Now let's release the slime and see who we got. In this test tube, we got a duplicate Bloaty, who's a common, and a duplicate Power Pounce, who's a color changer MrBeast Squad Ultra Rare. Here I have some cold water, so let's add Power Pounce, and it'll turn into a bright blue and purple. Here we are with our last test tube. So for the last time, let's add water and mix it up. I had to put a towel over the top of this one as well because it was spewing everywhere, but let's mix it up. Now let's release the slime. In our final test tube, we got a duplicate Wacky Whiskers, who's a common, and a duplicate Havoc Hand, who's another common. Unfortunately, I was completely and utterly wrong about this box of test tubes. We didn't find a single new swarm. Anyway, here are the swarms we did get, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow.